Hi, my name is Sania Sanghani, and for my experiment, I tested to see which artificial sugar tastes most like real sugar. What is sugar, you may ask? Sugar is a crystallized, grainy substance extracted from the leaves of the sugarcane plant. Sugar is perfect for adding sweetness and texture to your food. You can mix it into your coffee, dissolve it into your drink, use it when you're baking a dessert, and many more things. However, while sugar does have its positive uses, it also has many negative side effects if you have too much of it. So, some other companies have created artificial substitutes for sugar, which will have lower health risks due to overconsumption as opposed to sugar. The 4 sugar substitutes I used in my experiment were Splenda, Stevia, Sweet and Low, and Truvia. My hypothesis is that Truvia will taste the least artificial out of all the other sugar substitutes because it is extracted from the stevia plant roots and it is refined, and it also contains other natural flavorings such as erythritol. Some may argue that stevia could also be the least artificial tasting, but I still think Truvia will be it because stevia is extracted from the sweetest part of the stevia plant, while Truvia is extracted from the roots and it is refined with more natural flavorings. So stevia in the raw tends to be several times sweeter than Truvia, which is why I think it'll taste more artificial, which is why I think Truvia will be the least artificial tasting. And as you'll observe later in this experiment, my hypothesis was correct. For my experiment, my control was granulated sugar, and I put a 4th tablespoon of that in 5 cups, a 4th tablespoon of Splenda in 5 cups, the same for Stevia, Truvia, and Sweet and Low. Then I had 5 people come and taste each of the sugars blindfolded and then rate them on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being not artificial at all, 2 being just a little artificial, 3 being in between, 4 being pretty artificial, and 5 being absolutely artificial. Here are a few short clips of what the test looked like. I had all my taste testers wear blindfolds just to make sure that they wouldn't recognize the sugar so it wouldn't affect their rate of taste. These were my final results. From my results, I was able to create this graph. As you can see from my graph, the lowest rating of artificialness was obviously the control, and then after that, the lowest rating was Truvia with an average of 1.8. Following that was Sweet and Low with an average of 2, then Splenda with an average of 3.4, and then lastly Stevia with an average of 5. This means that Stevia was the most artificially tasting sweetener according to my test results. So in my graph, my independent variable was the sweeteners I used, the 5 different sweeteners, and my dependent variables were the rate of taste from 1 to 5 that each of my taste testers gave based on the artificialness of the sweetener. And here's a graph that shows just my average results. So in this graph, I have the average rate of taste based on how artificial the sugar substitutes tasted, and as you can see again, besides the control, the next smallest pie slice is the Truvia with 13.6% rate of artificialness. Next would be Sweet and Low, and then Splenda, and then lastly Stevia. This shows once again that Stevia was the most artificial tasting and Truvia was the least compared to the control. So, as you can see based on my graph, the least artificial tasting sugar substitute was Truvia. An error I made in my experiment that I will change for next time is the fact that I wrote the names of each variables on the data table, that I was having all my taste testers go and write down their rating of each of the sweeteners after they tasted it. But the mistake was that they could see the names of the sweeteners when they were going to write down their rating, which I meant to eliminate the risk of their answers changing, their ratings changing based on if they knew what the sweetener was or not. But I tried to solve that by using blindfolds, but now I realize that I should have just named each of the variables on the whiteboard, variable 1, variable 2, variable 3, 4, and 5, so that they would not know which one it was. So that might have influenced them to rate a different number based on what they thought the sugar was. My results connect to the real world because it shows that if the Truvia company can create a sugar substitute that tastes most like sugar compared to the other ones I tested, they will have more profit, because if they can create a lower health risk product with almost the same taste as the real product, they have a potential of making more money than the other companies. Another connection my results have to the real world is that if more and more people start using Truvia in their daily diets rather than regular sugar, then we have a chance at reducing the rates of diabetes, heart disease, and obesity in our country, because Truvia is healthier than regular sugar and it's also 0 calories. Because they're 0 calories, they are safe for diabetics, and they also do not affect your blood sugar levels. In conclusion, if people start using Truvia rather than regular sugar in their daily diets, the world could become a happier, healthier place. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this lab, and I hope you learned something.